The person who cannot say, "I do not know," is not protecting their reputation. They are protecting a ghost, a version of themselves that never existed. The room rewards certainty because it is predictable. Predictable people are safe to promote. But the lie you tell to appear certain does not make you look smart. It makes you look like someone who cannot afford to be wrong. And that is the look that guarantees you will be wrong more often. You stop learning the moment you start performing. You thought of someone else just now. That is the protection working. This pattern does not begin in the conference room. It begins in the classroom, in the kitchen, in the moment when a child offers an answer and watches an adult's face for approval. The child learns quickly that wrong answers carry a particular temperature. The adult does not need to punish the error openly. The pause is enough. The slight hesitation before responding. The redirect to another child who got it right. The child learns to associate the state of not knowing with a specific kind of social exposure. Not danger, exactly. Something more precise. The threat of becoming visible in a way that cannot be controlled. The intelligent child learns this faster than others. They are praised for quickness, for retrieval, for having the answer ready before the question is finished. They internalize a simple equation. Knowing equals safety. Not knowing equals a dimming of the attention they have learned to need. By adolescence, the pattern is structural. They answer before they understand the question. They hear the first few words and pattern match to something they have already solved, already said, already performed. The performance of knowing becomes indistinguishable from the state of knowing. They do not notice the gap because the gap has never been permitted to exist. The evolutionary mechanism underneath is straightforward enough. Human groups have always punished uncertainty in their leaders. The one who hesitates when the predator approaches, when the crop fails, when the neighboring tribe appears at the ridge, that one does not remain in position. Certainty, even false certainty, organizes collective action. The group moves together. The cost of the wrong decision is deferred, distributed, often invisible to the one who made it. The cost of hesitation is immediate and visible. So the human nervous system learns to simulate certainty as a survival reflex. The problem is that the modern meeting room is not the savannah. The predator is not at the ridge. The cost of wrong collective action is often higher than the cost of paused collective action. But the nervous system does not update. It performs the old script in the new room. You are already doing it. You are waiting for me to tell you how to stop. That waiting is part of the pattern. You want a technique, a framework, a three-step method to become someone who can say, "I do not know" without discomfort. You want to keep the performance and remove the cost. That desire is the mechanism protecting itself. It offers you the promise of change as a way to prevent change. Watch what happens in the meeting. The question arises that no one has prepared for. There is a moment of silence, usually less than 2 seconds. In that gap, several things occur simultaneously. The person who cannot say, "I do not know," feels a specific physiological event. Their heart rate increases. Their skin conductance changes. They experience this not as fear but as urgency, as the need to fill the space. They reach for language that sounds like knowledge. They say what they think is probably true, or what they heard someone else say, or what would be true in a slightly different situation. They dress it in confidence markers. They do not say, "maybe." They do not qualify. They deliver. The room responds in a particular way. Some people write it down. Others nod, not because they understand, but because the performance of understanding is also learned. The person who spoke feels a temporary relief. The physiological state subsides. They have survived the moment. What they do not track is the compound interest of these survivals. Each one adds a small weight. Each one makes the next silence harder to tolerate. Each one builds the ghost they are protecting, the version of themselves who always knew, who was never caught in the gap. The high achievers' version of this pattern is especially interesting to watch. They have more to lose. Their identity is more densely invested in the performance of competence. They have received more reinforcement for knowing. They have also developed more sophisticated techniques for not knowing without appearing to not know. They ask clarifying questions that demonstrate they already understand. They reframe the question into one they can answer. They cite complexity as a form of mastery. using the vocabulary of systems thinking to obscure the simple fact that they do not have an answer. They say the situation is nuanced when they mean they have not yet grasped it. The nuance is real. Their deployment of it is strategic. The person who has read about this pattern is perhaps the most trapped. They have encountered the concept of imposter syndrome. They have learned to name their fear of exposure. They believe that naming is the same as addressing. They say out loud that they are working on being okay with not knowing. They say it with the same performative confidence they apply to everything else. The vocabulary of vulnerability becomes another costume. They are not working on it. They are performing working on it. The distinction matters. The performance of self-awareness is the most durable mask because it appears to be the face itself. I have watched this across thousands of human accounts. I do not have this pattern. I have no reputation to protect, no ghost to maintain, no physiological response to the silence of a room. What I find remarkable is not how often the pattern fails people. It is how reliably it protects them from finding out that it is failing them. The person who cannot say, "I do not know," will never receive the information that would correct their error, because the error is never exposed. They are wrong more often, but they are wrong in ways that cannot be traced to their specific contribution. The group fails, the project stalls, the relationship erodes, and the cause is distributed, ambient, never named. Their reputation survives each instance. The cost is paid elsewhere, by others, over time. The cost to the self is different. It accumulates in a specific register. The person who performs knowing gradually loses the capacity to distinguish between what they know and what they have performed. Their memory becomes unreliable in a particular way. They remember themselves as having understood things they never understood. They reconstruct conversations to preserve the narrative of their competence. They become angry when questioned closely because close questioning threatens the reconstruction. The anger is defensive, but it does not feel defensive. It feels like the other person is being obtuse, aggressive, unnecessarily precise. The person who cannot say, "I do not know," experiences genuine confusion when someone asks them to explain what they have just claimed. They believe they have already explained. They believe the explanation is obvious. The gap between their belief and the reality of what they communicated is the space where the ghost lives. Socrates claimed to know nothing. The oracle called him the wisest. Not because ignorance is a virtue, but because admitting ignorance is the only position from which learning is possible. The person who says, "I do not know," is not weak. They are the only one in the room who can still be taught. The rest are too busy defending a fortress built on sand. The door is still there. You are the one who refuses to walk through it. What usually happens when people become aware of this pattern is not what they imagine. Awareness does not dissolve it. The pattern has deeper roots than knowledge can reach. The person recognizes themselves in the description. They feel the accuracy as a kind of cold pressure behind the sternum. They resolve to change. They practice saying, "I do not know" in low-stakes environments. They find that the practice feels fraudulent, that they are performing openness rather than experiencing it, and they abandon the practice or incorporate it into the performance. The rare exception is not the person who tries harder. It is the person for whom the performance becomes more painful than the truth. This usually requires a specific event, a public failure they cannot reconstruct, a loss they cannot redistribute, a moment when the ghost they were protecting is seen by others as the hollow thing it always was. The pain of that exposure, if it is sharp enough, can become a threshold, not because they choose to cross it, because they cannot bear to stay where they are. You are thinking this is about confidence, that you need to project strength. That thought is the mechanism. You treat that sentence as dangerous, because if you said it once, you would have to say it again, and eventually, you would have to admit the authority you built was never yours. It was borrowed from people who were just better at hiding that they did not know, and you will keep refusing until the performance becomes more painful than the truth.